far from where he was. The frog girl gave him a smile, one he easily returned. "Hey, Izuku, Iida, you're here too." The three turned to the door to see Ochako standing behind Izuku with a smile on her face. "Even Suyu's here too," Ochako said, nearly jumping up and down. Bakugo was glaring at Izuku as he grinded his teeth. The blonde still remembered what happened after they were called to the school's counselor together, and he still didn't know how Izuku got first instead of him, rescue points or not. "I wonder if today's the ceremony. Or is it guidance counselor stuff today?" Ochako said, looking a little nervous. "Oh, and the teacher, what'll they be like? I'm so anxious, like wow." Izuku smiled at Ochako and was about to open his mouth, until someone interrupted him. "If you're gonna be hunting for buddies, do it elsewhere." The four turned to look behind Ochako to see something interesting. Down on the floor was a shaggy-looking man inside a yellow sleeping bag, looking like a human caterpillar. "This is the department." The man took something out of his sleeping bag and started to drink it. "Of heroics. Who the hell is this guy?" was the collective thoughts of everyone in class as Izuku and his friends made their way to their desk. The green hair teen was keeping his eyes on the man as he moved to his desk while still in his sleeping bag. It took you lot 8 seconds to quiet down," the man said as he threw his sleeping bag off. "Life is short, kids. You're all lacking in common sense." Izuku rubbed his chin as he stared at the man, feeling he recognized those scarves of his and his looks. "I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Pleasure meeting you." The name instantly hit Izuku like a truck. The hero fan only remember one hero with the name Aizawa, and that was the underground hero Eraserhead. Izuku started to feel stars fill his eyes. Eraserhead was one of Izuku's favorite heroes. Eraserhead was rumored to be one of the best hand-to-hand fighters in all of Japan, not only that he was responsible for taking down tons of shady operations being done by villains who hid in the shadows. Despite being so successful, Eraserhead was barely known to the public, only appearing for a few interviews by reporters after a big case was closed. If Izuku remembered correctly, Eraserhead's quirk was Eraser, which allowed Eraserhead to erase the effects of anyone using their quirks as long as they were in his sights, except for mutation quirks. Izuku was suddenly knocked out of his thoughts as Aizawa pulled out a P.E. uniform from his sleeping bag. "Wore these immediately. And then shove off to the P.E. grounds," he said as he started to hand out the P.E. uniforms to everybody. Everyone in the class had a confused look on their face but did as they were told by the pro hero. "A quirk apprehension test." Everyone nearly yelled in confusion. Everyone in Class 1A stood on the large P.E. ground while in their P.E. uniforms given to them by Aizawa, which fit everyone perfectly. "What about the ceremony? And the guidance counselor's meeting?" Ochako called with a worry look on her face. "If you want to be heroes, we don't have time for frilly niceties," the hero said without looking back at Ochako. "You all understand the school's reputation for freedom on campus," Aizawa said while looking back with a scary look in his eye. "Well, that freedom goes for us teachers too," he said, making everyone gulp. Aizawa went on to explain what the quirk apprehension test was. Apparently it was more simple than most people thought. The 20 students would all do 8 events today, such as softball pitch, standing long jump, 50-meter dash, endurance running, grip strength test, sustained sideways jumps, upper body exercises, and seated toe touch. All these things were used in middle schools for sporting tests, only nobody could use their quirks so to keep things fair for people, which was hard for people with mutation quirks. The twist of the 8 events were that everyone would try to use their quirk as best they can during each event to try and get a higher score. Bakugo, the hero teacher, called the blonde's name, grabbing his attention. How far could you pitch a softball in middle school? The blonde clicked his teeth, looking annoyed. 67 meters. He said, remembering how Izuku got farther than him during their last school sporting event. Aizawa tossed a softball to Bakugo. Try using your quirk this time around. As long as you don't exit the circle, anything you do is fine. He said as Bakugo walked into the circle. Don't hold back. He said, getting a grin out of the blonde. You got it. He said with a grin as he started to wind up his arm. Just augment the pitch with some shockwave power. That'll blow everyone away and show who is on top. Just as the ball was leaving Bakugo's hand, the blonde set off a huge explosion that sent the ball soaring into the distance. Die. The blonde screamed at the top of his lungs. Die. Izuku thought with an eye roll as he rubbed the dust out of his eye. After a few seconds the device in Aizawa's hands beeped. Before anything else, one must know what they're capable of. The pro hero said as he showed what Bakugo's score was, which was 705.2 meters. This is a rational metric that will form the basis of your hero foundation. Awesome. That looks so fun. 705 meters, so unreal. We can really use our quirks now. That's the Department of Heroics for you. Izuku hated to admit it, but this test was sound and actually made a lot of sense. Each of these tests were possible things a pro hero would be doing in the field, such as running a short distance at top speeds, throwing, stamina, strength. All these things were essential for heroes. So it was natural for a hero to apply their quirks to these situations. The downside to this was Izuku didn't have a quirk, so he would have to do all 8 tasks like he was in middle school again, only stronger and faster than last time. Then again, Izuku was probably more well-rounded in these things since everyone else might only do good in a few tasks that applies to their quirks, but poorly if they can't use their quirks. It looks fun. You say. Izuku for some reason felt dread at the pro hero's tone of voice right now. So you were planning to spend your Spend your 3 years here having a good old time. Aizawa said as his hair shadowed his eyes. What happened to becoming heroes? When the teacher's eyes landed on everyone, they felt a shiver of dread. All right then. In that case, new rule, the students who rank last in total points will be judged hopeless. The next words to leave the man's mouth sent a chill of dread through everyone. And instantly expelled. At that moment Izuku realized, things just got a little harder. Our freedom means we dispense with students as we please. Eraserhead said while pulling his hair back, an almost mad grin on his face. Welcome to the Department of Heroics. The kid who ranks last gets expelled. Ochako shouted in shock. This is our first day here. But even if it wasn't, that's just too unreasonable. Izuku had a hard look on his face as he looked at his homeroom teacher, the pro hero Eraserhead. The green hair team didn't know if Aizawa was serious about the one ranking last would be expelled or not. On one hand, it could be nothing more than a ruse to get the students to work harder, then again, it could be legit as a way to weed out the weak and show that everyone needed to take the hero course seriously. Either way Izuku was going to try his damnedest to pass no matter what. Aizawa wasn't fazed by Ochako for a second. Natural disasters, massive accidents, ego-mad villains, the pro hero went on to explain. All kinds of calamites can happen when we least expect them. Japan's now positively drenched in unreasonable. And it's our job as heroes to reverse it all, and restore reason," he said as a serious look crossed his face. "If you were counting on a friendly chat at the local McDonald's after school, that's too bad. From now on, for the next 3 years, all you can expect from your life at UA is one of hardship after the next." Now Izuku felt that Aizawa wasn't playing around. If someone did come in last, Izuku had a sneaking feeling that person might be kicked out, unless he seriously impresses the pro hero. "This is Plus Ultra, I expect you to overcome these trials and climb to the top." Izuku glanced around to see everyone getting serious and pumped up. Now that was the demonstration, time to step up to the plate. With that, the 8 trials took place and happened in almost a flash. The first was the 50-meter dash, and Izuku was paired off with Bakugo, both being number 17 and 18. "I need to go full force at the start for every event, or I'll end up last," Izuku thought as he held his breath and tightened his legs. As soon the beep went off, both he and Bakugo were off. Blast rush. The blonde made a large explosion that nearly caught Izuku in the face, but that didn't stop the green-hair teen. The sudden boost of Bakugo's quirk gave him enough of an edge to get ahead of Izuku, but just barely. Katsuki Bakugo, 4.13 seconds. Izuku Midoriya, 5.10 seconds. Bakugo clicked his teeth as he glared at Deku. "I wanted to blow past him, but instead he stuck to my ass like always." Izuku on the other hand had different thoughts. "I was right, some people might have advantages in some events, but others can't use their quirks to their advantage," Izuku thought with a grin. "I might not come first in any event, but I might just make it to the top 10 for each one," Izuku thought with a grin as he glanced at the other students, paying attention to their quirks and what they can do. Unknown to the green-hair teen, Eraserhead gave Izuku a long look before moving on. The next trial was the grip strength test. Izuku was paired off with a different person this time, someone named Mezzo Shoji. He was a tall teen with white hair and a mask over his mouth. He also seemed to have a transformation quirk that gave him extra limbs. Shoji had created 2 extra limbs and each hand grabbed the device. As Izuku grabbed the grip device, the green-hair teen had a sudden idea. Holding the device in front of him, Izuku imaged the device as his bow and started to pull with his grip. It wasn't long before the two got their scores. Mezzo Shoji, 540.0 kilograms. Izuku Midoriya, 113.4 kilograms. "Whoa, you two are seriously strong," a teen with black hair said as he looked at the two's results. "What are you two, gorillas?" "Well, you're more like an octopus," he said while pointing to Shoji. "Someone say, octopus." A short kid with purple hair came by with started to stare at Shoji. "Hot," he said with a perverted look on his face, making the 3 shiver. The next event was the standing long jump. Some people were able to clear the sandbox like Bakugo and someone named Yuga Aoyama. Izuku was able to get about 3.75 meters, the 8th farthest in the whole class. The 4th trial was a sustained sideways jumps. Izuku was the 2nd best in class. Footwork was a fundamental of martial arts and Izuku was no stranger to moving his feet fast. Surprisingly, the person to come first was a short kid named Minoru Mineta, who used his quirk to bounce side to side. The 5th trial was a softball pitch, and the first one up was Ochako. "Go, go, go," the girl chanted as she threw the ball into the sky, and didn't look like it was going to stop time soon. After a few seconds, Aizawa showed her score, which was shocking to say the least. "Infinity. Holy cow. She got an infinity," was the collective response of the class, making Ochako blush a bit. After a few more people, Izuku was finally up. Izuku is doing very well given his situation. Iida said with a smile as he crossed his arms. That however seemed to piss Bakugo off. He's barely getting by for a quirkless fucking guppy. Bakugo growled, making Izuku roll his eyes. He'll be last by the end of this. Quirkless, what are you talking about? A red-haired teen with sharp asked while crossing his arms. Didn't he make first place in the entrance exam? He said, making Bakugo shut his mouth and grit his teeth. Izuku gave a small laugh before focusing on the task at hand. I need to use my full body in order to throw the ball as far as I can. Izuku thought as he started to move. The green-haired teen pulled his arm as he slowly started to raise his left leg into the air. In one fluid motion like a professional baseball pitcher, Izuku threw the softball. It soared through the air for a few seconds before hitting the ground. Izuku Midoriya, 120.8 meters. Izuku grinned and pumped his fist. This was the farthest he ever thrown. Unknown to the green-haired teen, Aizawa's glowing eyes hardened on Izuku as a frown crossed his face. After 3 more trials later, everyone gathered around Aizawa for the results. The 3 people most nervous were Mineta, Toru Hagakure, and Kyoka Jiro, the 3 mostly getting low scores in the 8 trials, though Toru and Kyoka seemed a bit more certain they passed. Before I give the results, something came to my attention. Aizawa said, making everyone worry. Izuku Midoriya, please step forward. Izuku felt a lump form in his throat as he made his way in front of the crowd of students. He wondered what Aizawa wanted with him. He knew he did well on all the trials, so he couldn't have failed. Once Izuku made it to his teacher, the pro hero looked down at him with lazy eye. Tell me, Midoriya, through the 8 trials that were given, did you use your quirk? He said, making nearly all the students start to talk, though Iida, Ochako, and Tsuyu gave the teen a worried look. Izuku took a slow breath before looking the pro hero in the eyes. No. The reason I didn't use a quirk during the trials is because I'm quirkless. He said, and the class instantly erupted. What, he's quirkless? Didn't he get first in the exam? But he beat my time in the race. I told you, weird head. Does anyone think I'm fabulous? Quiet. Aizawa said with an annoyed look on his face, making the entire class shut up. Man, the teacher sighed before turning to Izuku. You're really making things harder for me, kid. Izuku gripped his fist so hard he nearly felt blood start to flow out. Am I being the one kicked out of the hero course? He asked with hard eyes. Now Iida, Ochako, and Tsuyu looked really worried now. However, before anyone can say anything, Aizawa waved his hands. Don't jump to any conclusions, he said, giving Izuku a little hope. The reason I said you were making things hard for me is because of the 8 trials. The point of them was to see how creative you were with your quirks and to see if you can adapt. Go plus ultra. If you couldn't find any way to use your quirk in any of the 8 trials, I would have expelled you without any hesitation. That seemed to brought a shocked look to one of the girls. Wait, you were serious? I thought it was all a ruse to make us try harder. Aizawa shook his head. No, this is the hero course, not some gym or club. He said before looking to Izuku again. The problem here is, despite you doing well, you didn't real show plus ultra. Izuku looked right into Aizawa's eyes with determination. Then how can I prove myself? The pro hero had a thoughtful look on his face for a long moment, the anticipation practically killing Izuku. Finally, after a full minute, the teacher started to walk away. During the exam you used a bow, arrows, and a sword. He said as he walked to the open field without looking back. I wonder, is that all you can do? Without saying anything more, Aizawa pulled out a knife and tied it around the end of his scarf. Then in one fluid motion he swung the scarf around, making the knife cut the ground and form a near-perfect circle. What I want you to do is simple. Eraserhead said as he pulled his knife back to him and looked to Izuku. I'll give you 15 minutes to push me out of this circle. If you succeed, you can continue into the hero course. However, if you can't push at least an inch of me out, you fail. Izuku gave the teacher a shocked look. But Mr. Aizawa, you're Eraserhead, literally one of the best hand-to-hand fighters in all of Japan. How can I beat you? Even if I did have a quirk, your quirk would just erase it. He said, getting the class to talk again. Eraserhead. Never heard of him. I think he's one of those underground heroes. Aizawa ignored the comments and looked to Izuku. Don't worry, I won't use my capture weapons on you, and I'll hold back. Izuku was quiet more a moment before he looked his teacher in the eyes. What are the rules? Aizawa gave a shrug. Anything's fair in the circle, you can get pushed out as many times as you want until the time runs out. He said before looking to one of the girls. Yaoyorozu, I want you to referee and keep track of time, and the match at any time my foot hits the outside of the circle or when time runs out. He said, making the girl give a shaky nod. Whenever you're ready, Midoriya. The teacher said in a lazy voice as he put his hands in his pocket. Izuku stared at the circle for a long moment. He had no idea if he could even push Eraserhead out of the circle, which was about the size of a sumo ring. Taking a deep breath, Izuku took a deep breath and started to make his way towards the circle. You can do it, Izuku. Iida yelled while throwing his hand in the air. All you have to do is push him out. Ochako cheered while pumping her fists. Hero, hero. Tsuyu croaked as she raised her hand. Izuku started to try and come up with a plan of some kind. Trying to actually beat him with hand-to-hand is impossible, he's stronger, faster, and way more experienced than me. So my only chance to beat him is to catch him off guard with that. Izuku thought as he entered the circle. I can't use it right away, I need to bide my time until I can use it. The hero in training slowly brought up his fighting stance, making Aizawa raise an eyebrow. Solid, much more than I thought. Aizawa thought with a grin. This might be more interesting than I thought. The first one to move was Izuku. Izuku threw a wide swing at Aizawa, making him raise his eyebrow again. Was I wrong, he thought as he blocked the arm with ease. This seemed too sloppy. Aizawa was cut off, then Izuku grabbed the teacher's arm and pulling him forward, Izuku then threw a high kick aiming right for Aizawa's head. The pro hero caught Izuku by his ankle before swinging the teen around and throwing him out of the circle. Izuku hit the ground with a loud thud but was up in an instant and rushed at Aizawa again. Izuku threw a roundhouse kick at Aizawa's head but the teacher just leaned back, the kick flying an inch from his face. Not stopping his attack as soon as Izuku's foot touched the ground, he bolted forward and jabbed his elbow into Aizawa's exposed stomach. But at the last possible second, Aizawa caught Izuku's elbow with his hand. Izuku clicked his teeth as he spun around and aimed his other elbow for Aizawa's side, but again the teacher caught it in his hands. Acting fast, Izuku stomped his foot hard on top of Aizawa's, making the teacher grunt softly. With his foot trapped, Izuku threw a straight uppercut for the teacher's chin. Just as it looked like it was about to hit, Aizawa leaned his head to the side before spinning Izuku around. Before the teen could even react, Aizawa sent a devastating punch right into Izuku's stomach, knocking the wind right out of him. Gritting his teeth, Izuku grabbed the teacher's arm before throwing it over his shoulder. Judo throw. Despite Aizawa being thrown over Izuku's shoulder, his dull expression didn't change. He did it. Ochako cheered. At the last second, as Aizawa was going to hit the ground, his feet shot down and caught himself, stopping his body from hitting the ground. Aizawa then grabbed Izuku by his shirt before throwing him like a ragdoll to the ground. Again Izuku felt the wind knocked out of him, but at the same time he couldn't help but feel exited. So this is one of the best hand-to-hand combat fighters in Japan. Izuku thought with a grin as he pushed himself up. Despite my dream of being a hero on the line, I can't help but feel a little exited, he thought before springing into action. As Izuku ran, he spun in around before rising his leg and doing an intense drop kick right at Aizawa's head, but the teacher simply took a step back. The teen didn't stop and started to throw a high kick while pivoting his body. Izuku's legs were stronger than his punches, so his only hope was to use them more. Off to the side, the students were both shocked and amazed by Izuku's situation. Man, he's not giving up. It's so manly. The redhead shouted while pumping his fist. His technique is solid, much more than my own, the guy with the large tail said as he kept his eyes on Izuku's moves. I'm seeing more than one martial art in each of them. Judo and Krav Maga, I think. Wow, this is like something out of a kung fu movie. The girl with pink skin yelled in excitement as Izuku threw a fist before it was caught. The student challenging the master. It's so cool. You can do it, Midoriya. But the question is, can Izuku push Aizawa out of the circle in time? Iida asked in a worried tone. The next 10 minutes was an uphill battle for Izuku. Despite all his training, long hand-to-hand combat was his least used skill, because when fighting people with quirks is dangerous to take them head-on. Also, despite Aizawa holding back some, he was still stronger and faster than Izuku. The green-haired teen was able to land a few solid blows to the pro hero, but was quickly countered soon after. 3 minutes left. Yaoyorozu called while looking down at a timer. 3 minutes. Izuku called out in shock at the girl. It only felt like 5 to him. Focus on the fight, Aizawa said while driving his fist into Izuku's exposed stomach. Izuku wasn't prepared for the blow and took the fist full force, making him fall to his knees. The whole class winced at the blow and even Aizawa rubbed the back of his head, not meaning to hit that hard. Izuku's head felt dizzy as he panted for air, his mind racing. Only 3 minutes left, Izuku yelled in his head as he put his hands on the ground. Glancing up, Izuku saw Aizawa was only a foot away from the rim of the circle. I have to use it now, or I won't get another opportunity, he thought as his hand dug into the ground. Aizawa scratched his head as he saw Izuku wasn't moving. Are you still awake, kid? I know that punch didn't knock you out. The pro hero was cut off as Izuku suddenly lunged at him with his fist raised. Aizawa saw this coming a mile away and brought his arm to block the punch. He's getting desperate, starting to go wild just to push me out. Again Aizawa's thoughts were cut off, but for a different reason. Izuku had released a full blast of bloodlust at the last second his fist was going to hit, and Aizawa brought both his arms to block the punch on reflex. But the fist never came. Clap. As Izuku's fist was about to hit, the teen pulled his hand back at the very last second before clapping his hands right in front of Aizawa's face, making the teacher flinch from the surprise and sand being thrown in his eyes. Not missing an opportunity, Izuku slammed his fist into the pro hero's exposed stomach. The pro hero clicked his teeth as he stomped his foot back and was easily able to throw Izuku off to the "Oh, you out." Aizawa froze in place at Yaoyorozu's voice. Glancing back, the teacher was surprised to the very back of his foot was out of the circle he made. Izuku pushed himself off the ground and looked up at the pro hero with a big grin on his face. Looks like I got you out, Mr. Aizawa, Izuku said while panting for air as sweat dropped down his face. The whole class looked shocked before they cheered for Izuku, except for Bakugo, whose mouth hung open. He did it, he did it. Ochako cheered with Tsuyu. Congratulations, Izuku. Iida cheered as he rushed to his friend. Man, that was so manly. The teen with red hair nearly cried. Aizawa was still looking at his foot that was outside the circle he made. He honestly didn't expect the young teen to be able to push him out, be it with brute force or some other trick. That didn't mean he was going to expel him. Izuku already proved himself by coming in ahead out of most people in the whole class that had quirks even though he didn't. Not only that, he seemed to be quite skilled in hand-to-hand combat than most students the pro hero had seen. He just wanted to see how far Izuku could go if push came to shove. The last thing he expected was for Izuku to actually push him out of the circle, with nothing more than a clap of his hands. This kid. Aizawa said slowly as a grin crossed his face. Bakugo however looked shocked. He just saw the weakest kid he knew bested a pro hero without any tools or quirk, just skill. But that was impossible. Quirkless people can't beat a hero with a quirk. It was impossible. Unless he did have a quirk. Deku. Bakugo roared as he blasted his way to the tired teen. You have a lot of explaining to do, shitrag. The green-haired teen pushed himself off the ground and raised his arms, ready for anything. But before Bakugo was even 10 feet away from Izuku, his blast suddenly stopped while he was in midair. What the fuck? Then white scarves wrapped around his body, keeping him in place. Shit, this cloth. Why is it so hard? It's my special capture weapon, a steel wire alloy woven with carbon nanofibers. Aizawa explained with an annoyed expression on his face. Geez, don't make me use my quirk so much, I've got dry eye, damn it. He said, looking really peeved now. His quirk is amazing, but it seems a waste on a guy with dry eye. Was the collective thoughts of most of the class. TCH. Bakugo said while he was let go, glaring at Deku who held his gaze. He should have been nothing more than a pebble in my path. After a few minutes the whole class gathered around Aizawa again as he gave the results 8 trials. In first place was Momoya Yorozu, practically made it into the top 5 every single trial with her quirk. Izuku smiled when he saw he was in 7th place. Not bad for a quirkless teen in the hero course. And in last place was Minoru Minda, who only did well in one trial but poorly in the others. Minda started to sweat as he turned to Aizawa. Am I going to be? The shout teen couldn't even finish his sentence as he shook hard. Aizawa shook his hand. You made it in, but barely. You're on a short leash now, kid, so don't start slacking off. He said, nearly making the kid cry in relief. Midoriya, head to recovery girl to take care of those burses. He said as he handed the teen a paper slip. With that said, Aizawa started to walk away. Izuku turned to his friends and gave them a smile. Looks like we survived today. He said, getting a shaky laugh from everyone. It's not every day I see you look impressed, Aizawa. The pro hero turned to the side to see All Might himself in his muscular form in a yellow suit. Oh, it's All Might. So you were watching, I take it. Aizawa said, not even fazed. You must be free then. The number 1 hero have a small laugh at that. You know, it's a little surprising to see you not expel a single person. Given that you expelled an entire new class of first graders last year. You kick kids out without a moment's hesitation if you judge them as having 0 chance. The hero said with a huff. I was worried when you pulled Midoriya aside. I thought you were going to expel him for being quirkless, but instead you gave him a chance to prove himself and show you what he's made of. You too felt Midoriya's growing potential. That seemed to catch the scarf-wearing hero. You too. Aizawa said as he glanced at All Might. So you have his back, right? He said slowly, making the hero pause. Normally that'd be against your teaching style, which makes me wonder how a kid like him caught the number 1 hero's attention. All Might was silent for a long moment before he sighed. 10 months ago I met young Midoriya. He asked me if someone quirkless could become a hero. I said no. All Might said in a low tone, making Aizawa look at him. He then told me that he would prove me wrong and become a hero anyway. He said with a small laugh as he remembered Izuku's determined face. Then during that slime villain incident he leapt to save someone without any hesitation while the other heroes were waiting for someone with a better quirk. He got that person out and would have stopped the villain if I hadn't stepped in. He proved me wrong the very same day he told me off. Aizawa absorbed the information All Might said before turning forward. Quirks aren't everything. Just because someone might have a useful quirk doesn't mean they have the skills and mindset to be a hero. Imagine if an idiot had your power, they cause more damage than good. He said, making All Might stiffen slightly, though Aizawa hadn't noticed that. Midoriya seems well trained with a bow and sword, and his body is in peak physical condition. I just wanted to see how well he could do without his weapons on hand. He said as he started to walk away. I can kick out anyone whose chances of being a hero drop below the 0 mark at any time. It's not a cruel thing to end the half-asses chasing of a dream that will never happen. He said as he walked away. All Might gave a small laugh at that. So that's your brand of kindness, is that? Is Aizawa. However, All Might gave a small sigh as he looked towards Izuku, see him talk with his friends, making him smile. You gave him a chance to prove himself before deciding his worth. He said before he walked back to the school before anyone noticed. Izuku sighed as he came from Recovery Girl's office. He had nothing serious other than a few bruises and scrapes, but that healed in an instant thanks to the hero's quirk. Izuku was currently heading to Aizawa, hoping to catch the hero before he left. Hey Izuku. The teen turned back to see both Ochako, Iida, and Tsuyu walking towards him. Well, if it isn't Infinity Girl. Izuku said in a joking voice, making them raise an eyebrow. Infinity Girl? Ochako asked while tilting her head. Izuku pointed to her with a smile. Because you were the only one to get infinity in any of the 8 trials. Ochako rolled the name on her tongue a bit before she smiled. I like it. She said, giving everyone a small laugh. Are you well, Izuku? Iida asked while raising his hand. The teen smiled, nodded to them. Yeah, don't worry, I just had a few scrapes and bruises. Recovery Girl healed it all easily. Ochako put a hand over her heart and sighed. I was so worried during your fight with Aizawa. He was so skilled. Yes, it looked like you were going to run out of time before you pushed him out. Tsuyu said before a smile crossed her face. But I'm glad to see you got to stay. She said, getting a smile out of Izuku. So where are you heading now, Izuku? Iida asked with more hand movements. The teen threw his thumb behind him. I need to see Aizawa about something important. It might take a while, so you guys go on without me. He said, getting a nod from them. Just as they were about to walk, Ochako had a thoughtful look on her face as she turned to Izuku. Hey Izuku, I was wondering about something. She said, grabbing everyone's attention. Why does Bakugo call you deku? That made the teen snort. It's an insult he came up with when we were about 4. It means, someone who can't do, or, won't achieve anything. He used to call me defenseless Izuku, but that was too long, so he started calling me deku for short. He said with a shrug. I see, an insult when written with a different kanji, deku meaning a wooden figure or puppet. Iida said with a hand on his chin. Really? Ochako asked while tilting her head. I thought deku give a, never give up, vibe, you know. Because deku sound like a short version of dekiru. She said with a smile. Izuku stared at Ochako for a long moment before putting his hands on her shoulders. "Ochako, I need you to do me a favor," he said in a serious voice, making the girl blink. "I need you to say that exact thing tomorrow in front of Bakugo," he said as a wicked grin crossed his face. Because once he learns he's been basically saying, "I can do it," for most of our lives, he's going to be pissed. Tsuyu put a finger on her chin and tilted her head at Izuku. "Izuku, your wicked side is showing," she said playfully. Izuku laughed and let Ochako go, not noticing the blush on her face. "Anyway, I need to see Aizawa, so see you guys later," he said as he started to walk away. After about 5 minutes of walking, Izuku found his way back to Class 1A. Entering the classroom, Izuku saw Aizawa sitting at his desk while looking at some papers. The pro hero looked up and gave Izuku a glance. "Is there something you need, Midoriya?" Aizawa asked while looking at his papers. The pro hero expected maybe some kinda back talk about the fight, maybe how he was singling him out, maybe some soft gloating about how he was able to catch a pro hero off guard without a quirk. "I was hoping if I can get a note to go to the support course," Izuku asked, making Aizawa raise an eyebrow. "I have a friend in there that said she was going to make my hero costume, so I was wondering if I can get it and maybe help." The pro hero stared at the hero in training for a moment before he spoke. "Wouldn't you rather have a support company make your costume instead of a student?" Izuku instantly waved his hand with a smile on his face. "It wouldn't feel right. My bow and grapple gauntlet were both made by the same person that's now taking the support course. I want her to be the one that makes my hero costume. Plus she knows exactly what I need and want." Aizawa had a thoughtful look on his face before he pulled out a paper from his desk and wrote on it. "Do whatever you think is best," he said before handing the paper to his student. As Izuku took the note, he looked at Aizawa with an embarrassed expression on his face. "Also, there's one more thing I was hoping you could do," he said while taking out his purple notebook from his shirt. "Could I get your autograph?" he asked while rubbing the back of his head. Aizawa raised an eyebrow at this. In his entire hero career, nobody ever asked for his autograph before. Sure, people asked for his name and who he was more times than he could count, but never his autograph. The pro hero grabbed the purple notebook silently before writing his hero name in it before silently handing it back. Izuku had a big grin on his face as he took his autograph book. "Thanks," he said while putting the book back in his shirt. "I don't suppose you can give me some tips to help me fight better? Even though I pushed you out of the circle, you were holding back and kicking my ass the whole 15 minutes, so a tip or two from you will be helpful," he asked in a hopeful voice. "Don't stick to the same speed. In a fight it's best to make sure you're always on control," Aizawa said slowly as he looked down at his papers. "Sometimes suddenly going faster or slower will slip your opponent enough to give you an opportunity." Aizawa then looked up in thought. "I also advise going over the basics for every marital art you know. Sometimes knowing too many can make them overlap in a bad way, so try to come up with your own rhythm with them," the pro hero advised, making Izuku nod. "I'll see about getting a training partner to help me with my martial arts," Izuku said as he made his way to the door. "Thanks again, Mr. Aizawa," he said before making his way to the support course's development studio. As Izuku was near the support course workshop, he suddenly heard a big boom, making him grin. "Sounds like May thought of something new," he muttered as he turned a corner. As Izuku turned a corner, a door opened and a column of smoke soon followed. A person came out of the classroom coughing up a lung. "Damn it, May, it's only the first day of the week. My bad, I thought I had it calibrated," The person at the door was a shirtless man that looked like a robot dinosaur, with large hands and a giant helmet. Izuku instantly recognized the man as the excavation hero Power Loader. "You all right?" Izuku couldn't help but ask in sympathy, knowing what it was like to have Mei in a small room after all the times they worked together. The pro hero turned to Izuku with a small cough and nodded his head. "Nothing too bad, just a student who experimenting," he said as he waved his large hand, moving the smoke away. "I can only guess who," Izuku said as he saw a familiar face behind the pro hero. "An explosion this big in the second week, I just wanna bet with myself." "Izuku, how's it going?" Mei asked with a smile as she pulled her goggles up, showing her golden, crosshair eyes. Power Loader looked between the two with a raised brow. "I take it you know each other?" Izuku pointed to the two of them with a smile. "Yeah, we met almost a year ago and she helped make some of the weapons I used in the exam." That seemed to make the hero snap his fingers. "Now I recognize you, you're the kid that came in first place in the entrance exam." "Yup." Mei cheered as she brought Izuku into a sideways hug. "And it was all thanks to our super cute babies." Izuku rolled his eyes playfully and turned to the hero. "She's right in a way, we worked on my grapple gauntlet and bow together, but she did most of the technical work. I probably wouldn't have made first place if it wasn't for her." Izuku felt no shame sharing his achievements with his friend, in fact it felt all the more important to him. Power Loader nodded before noticing the paper in Izuku's hand. "I take it you didn't just come to say hi to a friend?" the hero asked while pointing to the note. Izuku nodded and turned to Mei. "I was hoping you can get started on the combat suit we discussed." Mei gave him a thumbs up. "Actually, I already started about 3 days ago," she said with a smile. Izuku's raised an eyebrow at Mei before he remembered that the support course started a week early than any other class, so the students could get used to the equipment. "So that's what that thing is," Power Loader said as he made his way back into the studio. "All right, come on in kid." The three entered the studio together and Izuku saw a bunch of different tools and gadgets all around. "Over here Izuku," Mei called as she laid out a black suit with yellow outlines on a clear table with Power Loader next to her. Izuku walked over and saw his soon-to-be combat suit. "So, what can you tell me about this?" Izuku asked while looking over the black suit with an intense eye. Mei gained a proud look as she gestured to the combat suit. "This suit is lined with both Nomex and Kevlar, making it bulletproof, knife-proof, shock, cold, water, and flame-resistant, and that's just the outside. Inside, this baby is lined with both ballistic fibers and carbon nanofibers. I also added a layer of Gore-Tex to suppress your heat signature to make you invisible to night vision and infrared. All this means you can take some grenades to the chest and still be fine." "Probably. I don't like how you said that with a smile on your face." Izuku sighed along with Power Loader. Mei however didn't miss a beat. The forearms, elbows, shins, and knees are all reinforced with steel, allowing you to block some attacks easier or even attack with. "I also put steel over the crotch to protect your bits just in case, since that's every guy's weakness," she said in a carefree voice as the two guys winced and moved their hands low. "The boots are also steel-tipped and will allow more damage with your kicks." She then brought out a mouth guard that looked like a grin along with a pair of sunglasses. The mouth guard will protect you from gases, smoke, and even allow you to breathe underwater. The sunglasses can provide night vision, infrared vision, and even protect you from flash attacks. Also the glasses lock in place so you don't have to worry about them falling off. Power Loader was looking over the suit and was both impressed and slightly worried. "This is all great, but won't this all seems too heavy? Movement is key for being a hero." It may be a problem for someone without the right developed body, but Izuku's body is strong enough for this to not be a bother," she said while pointing to Izuku. "Plus I tried to use only the very necessary amount of material without going overboard and woven them in a way that spreads out the weight. In total this suit should weigh about 50 to 60 pounds, more than enough for you to handle." Izuku looked his future combat suit and couldn't help but smile. "This is damn near perfect, you seriously outdid yourself, May," he said, getting a smile out of the girl. "Put it on, I want to see if I got the measurements right," she said in an eager voice. Izuku nodded and grabbed the suit off the table. After going to the changing room for a few minutes, Izuku came back in his new combat suit. The suit was snug, allowing the two to get a good idea of Izuku's body. The suit also provided a hood big enough to hide his fluffy green hair. Adding the mouth grinning guard and sunglasses made Izuku all the more intimidating. Around his waist was a belt with a few pouches built into it. "Why gold?" Izuku couldn't help but ask. Black and yellow was not his first choice in colors. But then again, he couldn't say it was bad. All black would have made the suit look dull, it wouldn't catch any eyes. May said while shaking her head. "I thought gold would be a nice touch to the suit to make it stand out more. Plus it is my eye color," she said while looking Izuku over. "So, how does it fit?" Izuku brought his arms up slowly and threw some light punches. "Not bad, fits like a glove," he said with a grin. "When will it be finished?" he asked in an edgier voice as he threw a kick in the air, feeling little to no restraint. May gave him a thumbs up. "I should be done tonight. Just have to go over it a few things before I give it the all clear," she said as a thoughtful look crossed her face. "You know I can still build you a power suit," she said in an edgier voice, making Izuku sigh as he grabbed his bag. "We can use hydraulics and programming to allow you to practically have super strength, and we can add a jetpack so you can fly, and some shock fists, and a pair of rocket boots, and... Before May could go into a further rant about a new and possible dangerous invention, Izuku pulled a piece of chocolate from his bag and shoved it into her mouth. The girl's eyes widened in delight as she let the chocolate melt in her mouth. "May, have some chocolate," Izuku said with a slightly playful voice as a grin spread across his face. "You're too you when you're hungry." May huffed slightly as she held out her hand, and Izuku placed a chocolate bar in it. "You're lucky you have milk chocolate on hand," she muttered as she silently ate. Power Loader looked to Izuku with wide eyes and a slight hopeful expression. "Where have you been the past 2 weeks?" he asked in a desperate voice that just made May roll her eyes and Izuku laugh. The next day at UA was much more mundane for Izuku. Before noon everyone had a normal lesson for all the required subjects such as English, math, and reading. At noon everyone gathered at the Grand Mess Hall to sample first-rate cuisine for cheap made by a pro hero named Lunch Rush, a hero that used this influence to feed the less fortunate all over Japan. But after a day of regular school life, at the afternoon portion the hero course did their daily foundation of heroic studies. The students of 1A all sat down in their homeroom classroom waiting for their teacher to show up. "It's me," a certain hero called, making the whole class exited. Coming through the door, like a normal person, All Might called as he slammed the door open while laughing. Izuku gave a small snort at that. One thing he found out about All Might is that the number one hero loved his gags. Izuku noticed the hero was wearing an older version of his costume as he walked to the front desk. "I can't believe it. All Might's really going to be teaching us," was the collective response of the whole class. Foundational Hero Studies. For this class, we'll be building up your hero foundation through various trials, All Might said while doing a heroic pose. "Let's jump right in with this." The trial of battles. All Might said as B brought out a card that said battle. Izuku noticed Bakugo gained a feral grin on his face at the word battle. And to go with your first battle, All Might said as he pressed a remote button. In an instant several shelves. We've prepared the gear we had you send in requests for to match your quirks. He said, getting an exited look on everyone's face. Izuku was currently grateful he was able to help Mei finish his combat suit yesterday, even if it did take a few hours after school. Our battle gear. The redhead teen with sharp teeth called. Awesome. Get changed and we'll be ready to go. Everyone gather at Ground B. All Might said as everyone started to grab their numbered case, Izuku's being 17. And don't forget. From here on out, you're all officially heroes. Everyone in Class 1A quickly grabbed their hero costumes before making their way to the locker room, excitement running through everyone. Izuku was the last to enter Ground B since his costume took a bit longer to put on than others. His costume was the same when he tried it on with Mei with the exception of his sword and quiver, which was full of very useful trick arrows, on his back. He also had his grapple gauntlet on his left arm, his bowie knife on his leg, and crow claw folded on his hip. He also had a necklace of a hawk around his neck, a gift from his mom and Eri after they went shopping together. Overall, all his gear plus the combat suit did weigh a bit, but thanks to Izuku's training under All Might along with Mirio the teen was able to adjust quickly. As Izuku looked at all the costumes his eyes landed on Bakugo's huge grenade gauntlets, wondering what they were. After a second Izuku had a rough idea what Bakugo could use those for, which was nothing good. Izuku, is that you? Ochako asked while tilting her head. The green-haired teen pulled his mask and hood down while giving his friend a smile. It's me. Wow, your costume looks cool. She said in an exited voice. It looks more practical, my suit came up a bit tight. She said in an embarrassed voice. Izuku gave a small laugh with a blush on his face. Well, that's pretty practical too, I mean that'll make it harder for people to grab you. Off to the side the shortest kid in class, Mineta walked by and gave Ochako a pervy look. Heroics is the greatest. He said, getting slapped upside the head by Suyu. Izuku raised his eyebrow at Mineta's costume, the bottom half looked like an oversized dipper. Don't be a creep. She said before giving Izuku a smile. I see Mei was able to finish your combat suit. She said, also in a skin-tight outfit. And just in time. He said as he pointed to All Might, who started to talk. I'm liking everyone's styles. Very cool. All Might said with a thumbs up. All Might. Regarding the performance ground we'll be using, is it the Mach City from the entrance exam? Iida asked while raising his hand. I was wondering who was next to me. Izuku thought as he got a good look at Iida's costume. Looks like a combination of a knight and a car. All Might went on to explain that everyone would be performing mock battles between two sides, the heroes and the villains. It was a 2-on-2 battle, making everyone start to ask questions. So how do we determine who wins and loses? Is it okay if we blow them away? Is there a threat of expulsion like with Aizawa? If we're separated into different groups, what would be the best way to do so? Doesn't this cape look killer on me? All Might started to sweat from all the questions being thrown at him. HNNN, I can't hear you if you speak all at once. He said before bringing out a small note sheet. The scenario they were using was, the villains had a nuclear device they planned on using, and it was the heroes' job to stop them. If the heroes reach the device before time runs out or they capture the villains, they win. If the villains hold out until time runs out or they capture the heroes, they win. Your teammates and opponents will be chosen by lottery. The number 1 hero said as he pulled out a small box. Is that really how we'll do it? Iida couldn't help but ask in shock. It makes sense actually, Izuku said, grabbing everyone's attention. Pros are often forced to work with people they're unfamiliar with for short team-ups. This is probably to test us for future quick team-ups and to see if we can adapt. I see, always with our eyes on the future. Iida muttered before turning to All Might.